Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Morning Express Book Review. We are the Book Heaven, that is a textbook center here in Sarit Center, Nairobi. And the kids are off from schools on holiday, and today we want to review a children's book. We want to connect with the young people as much as we always do with the older people, and I'm talking about The Little Thithinda and The Wind Game by Karimi Gatimi, who is here with me. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Karimi, wow. A children's book. I mean, how easy or hard is it to put together such a piece of work?
Well, first of all, of course, you have to speak the language of children for you to put a book like this together.
Right.
And the easy bit is you have to. I am a mother, so I have children around me, and they have all this imagination and believe in magic and stories they tell, and the questions they ask. So that makes it easy for me as a writer to get to gather all that creativity and put it in a book. Hard because sometimes children have been also socialized to read just textbooks. So you find you've written a nice book, and the parent or the teacher will not go out and buy a creative book other than a textbook. So that's really the hard bit for a writer, because you want to reach out to as many children as possible. And the idea is to make children to love reading for the sake of reading, not because they have to pass an exam and forget about the book.
All right.
Yeah.
Karimi, what is the story about?
Well, this story, to summarize, it's about self-identity. So I wrote it, I was inspired by my daughter, and she has all these questions, but one of them was about, it's aimed for between 5 to 8 years old. It's about that age when children have these questions about themselves. You know, like she wants to know, one of the questions she really asked me, she's of a darker shade, beautiful ebony skin, and one of the questions she kept asking me is, how come I am darker and other people, my family, my cousins, they are lighter skin? So I really had to bring out the beauty of being black and of course a variety of black shades that we have. But I felt there was a need for her to feel that, to have that self-identity. So this book was really born out of that. I think it actually came into production like this because I got a lot of support from Story Moja. At the same time I was drafting the book, they had a writer's workshop, and it was actually writing for children. So I went for that workshop, and out of it I got a lot of tips and information on how to write, and the book was accepted by Story Moja for publication. So that's really...
You are competing with a lot of other children's writers from the West. We're talking about the Cinderellas of the day. I mean, how easy is it in the African market to find your space where the readers are, exposed to writers from the West and not local writers?
Interesting, because the children themselves want to read books about their cultures, about themselves. Because actually when this book first was conceived, we were driving and there was a traffic jam and it was drizzling, and my daughter told me, Mom, tell me a story. And I started the Cinderella story, and she said, that's boring, I have a DVD, I have a book, so tell me another story, tell me something else. And I could think of all the Western stories we have read, but then in this rain and all that, there was a tree sort of swaying by the wind. So I looked at it, and at first I wanted to tell stories about the rain and the trees, and I thought that's textbook and that's really going to bore her in traffic. So we just came up with a story, and she seemed interested, and the following day she wanted the same story, and the same one that I had told her, and I couldn't remember exactly how it went, but she sort of threw in and she said, no, you said it wasn't the rain game, it was the wind game, and it was this and it was this. So there's a demand by the children themselves. They want to know more about their history. They have questions about why is it that that this and this is going on in our country. The other day, the same daughter asked me, what are we, Kikuyu or are we Luo? And this is some of identity issues that our children want to know, and they are demanding it. So I wouldn't say the competition would be there, because the parents still have the mindset that they have to buy the Western books. Yes, something from the West is better and all that. And I remember actually going to a particular bookstore and asking whether they have this in stock, and they said we don't stock local writers. So there's a lot of that with the adult population. Yeah, it was harsh, because I felt, why wouldn't you stock local? Is it because there's that perception that local is not good? And I remember asking them that, and they said it's just our policy, you know. So there is that kind of challenge out there with that. But the children themselves want local. They want the stories from grandma.
What sort of stories do young children want to read from children's books that are done by local, you know, writers?
Of course, they want to do a lot of animals, a lot of plants and all. They have a lot of fascination with the birds, the trees, the forests, and I think a lot of it, a lot of nature oriented, and it's about the environment that they are in. So the idea is also to bring the magic out of that, because children will believe about a tree that is talking, or a tree that has a beautiful, you know, all that. So it's about the local situation they're in. You won't find a child asking about snow and stuff like that,
because they know that we don't have snow.
They don't relate to that. They want stories that relate to the environment they face.
Right.
Sometimes we have families who go to up country, you know, what you call Ushago, and they have dogs and they have this chicken, and children are so fascinated about that. They want to ask, where did the chicken come from?
Because obviously in the city they don't interact.
They don't. They just find it there in the hotel. But you tell them this is the same chicken that produces an egg, and they're very curious about that kind of thing. So I think really as parents, teachers, and writers and artists of all sorts, it's time to really bring out that local environment so that the children can really relate to it and enjoy it. Yeah.
How do you hide the morals of the story within what you're writing? How easy is it, especially when you're writing to Kenyan children?
What I have learned, children are very smart. Actually, we tend to underrate their intelligence, so that we have this traditional way of telling a story and then saying the moral of the story is, they get it. You don't even have to say the moral of the story.
You don't have to make it too obvious.
Yes, you don't have to. So you just make a creative story out of something, and there's a moral within it. For example, little Thithinda is a tree, and she has butterflies and birds and everybody perching on her head, and they are playing and they're telling her let's play, and she wants to join them, but she can't move because she's a tree. So you see, that kind of story comes out, and at the end of it all, the tree finds out a game that only trees can play, which is Little Thithinda and the Weed Game. Now that's where for you to read and find out. That's where you need to buy the book and read it. But the beauty of that is all that story, and the child is really intrigued. What can Thithinda do? How can she get to play and also have fun? But the moral is about self-identity. She finds out, I may not be able to run and fly and do all these things that my friends can do, but I am a tree, and since I cannot move, there is a game that I can play and no one else can play. Only trees can play the game. So that's the story of you are okay with who you are. That's the moral of the story. You know, you are okay in your skin, in whatever language, whoever you are beautiful and you're unique and you are okay.
Karemi, what sort of criticism do you get from the people who've bought and read your books? What are they saying?
One of the most positive criticisms, because now we have the book in the Swahili version. It's not yet available in the stores, but it should be from next year, January. There's the Swahili version. So, yeah. And
so even for kids who are out there and saying we need to connect more with the Africanness, there's something.
Yes, there's something.
What sort of positive stories do you get? Because I mean, looking at the cover, there is endorsement from a mother of two and a teacher. I mean, this really connects, because this is a mother who has kids going to school at this particular age, and she's saying this is a book you need to read. What sort of positive stories do you get from readers?
So many, especially from children and also from parents. Some of them, like the children, will tell me, is there another story about Thithinda, you know, a sequel? So that's been a challenge, because I need to develop a sequel, and it always comes up. So what happens with Thithinda when she goes to class 2, or she goes to, you know, they want
to grow.
They want to grow with Thithinda. So I get that from teachers. They say it's written in easy language for this age group.
Yes.
But it brings out the really the moral aspect of the story very well, without having to preach to the child that you know, like, be who you are or something. So that's a positive thing that comes out.
I also want to comment about the use of color in this book, because normally when you're looking at children's books done by Kenyan writers, they will always be in black and white, you know, and the diagrams, you know, are black and white and simpler. Was this to meet the market, or what kind of market were you going for when you decided to do all color?
Of course, when you are writing for children, there has to be a balance of words and graphics. That's one thing.
Right.
But also color brings out the beauty of the book and the story about it, because children they like variety, they like color, they like graphics and all that. And I also want to give it to my publisher, Story Moja, because they have an in-house illustrator and they work with authors. So when you submit a manuscript, they will invite you and sit with you and tell you, this is what we have in mind. Does that bring out your story? You know, so with this illustrator, so together, what I have in mind and put it in words, they bring it now visually as a book. Yeah.
What's the age group that is going out? Because lots of parents will be watching this and saying, hey, I mean, what age groups are you writing for? Little Thithinda, how old is Little Thithinda?
Well, Little Thithinda, the age group, as I mentioned, is between 5 to 8 years, but it's also really found an attraction with even 10-year-olds, the same age, because at that age they're still going through this identity thing about just not major identity crisis really, but just sort of identity about
more
themselves.
Or less finding their place in the family,
finding their place and have all these questions. So it's actually covered a wider group than I had written for. So it's between actually 5 to 10.
Right.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to ask, is there a plan to have a sequel? Because if kids are saying we need to grow up with Thithinda, what's the plan for that?
There is a plan. Right. There's the next title I'm yet to submit to my publisher, but I think it's something that I'm working on because it's been requested, so I need to do it.
All right.
Yeah.
For parents watching, where can they get this book?
You can find it at Textbook Center.
Right here.
Yes. Here.
Okay.
Find every book. Good book
so
here.
It's a book heaven.
Yes. Actually, also all the Uchumi outlets. Yes, and I'm not sure whether the Nakumat is yet stocking it, but also most major bookstores within Nairobi and Kisumu at the moment. Yes.
Okay. Great. Of course, no book review is complete without a book reading. So I'll ask you to pick a favorite page of Little Thithinda and the Wind Game and just read it to our audience.
Cool.
And the children who will be watching it.
Cool. I won't start, but I think I'll pick one of my favorite, page 10 here. Page 9. I'm just gonna read that. When the sun rose, butterflies woke up and flew around Thithinda. Butterflies liked to perch on her pretty head. Thithinda, wake up, the butterflies said. Let's play. Thithinda tried to lift herself from the ground. She tried to stretch. Stretch! Thithinda creaked, but she did not move. Old Grandfather Mugumo laughed at her. Little Thithinda, he said, you are a tree. You are stuck in the ground. Then I don't want to be a tree, Thithinda replied. Be glad to be alive, said Grandfather Mugumo. Look how pretty you are. All day Thithinda watched butterflies fly. She watched insects jump about. Thithinda watched animals run around. It's not fair, she said. I want to play. Can I go on? Maybe up to here?
Yeah, sure.
When it was quiet that night, Thithinda asked her father, Baba, why can't we fly like butterflies? Her father smiled and said, trees do not have wings. Thithinda asked her mother, Mama, why can't we walk like the animals of the forest? Thithinda, why do you want to walk? Her mother asked. So that I can play like butterflies and other animals, Thithinda said. And maybe the only thing I can read the last one. I can teach you a game that only trees can play, Thithinda's mother said. Only trees can play the wind game. Yay, said Thithinda. Show me how to play the wind game. Mama Thithinda closed her eyes and began to hum. So I'm gonna read up to there.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Little Thithinda and the Wind Game by Karimi Katimi. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
So much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate.